an investigation into the key impacts of studentification within Cathays. Studentification conceptualises the processes by which existing private rented or single-family owner-occupied housing is recommodified by property owners, investors and developers to provide student accommodation within houses in multiple occupation. This investigation has been undertaken using qualitative research methods, including video observation, overt studies and informal interviews with significant figures from the Cathays community. We asked our interviewees for their opinion on the impact of studentification on Cathays community.
With students, you don't get, well, I don't know, we do actually have quite a few students that have volunteered over the years. So I think students always have had a big role in the student centre. I mean, I think the cafe manager, he used to do some voluntary work here, and when he was a student, now he's running the cafes, he was always quite involved in the community centre. One of the main issues is the kind of lack of local people. Like, I never really know anyone who lives on the street because the people are changing every 9 months or so. So I think the problem is you don't really get a sense of community. I mean, a lot of the groups who use the community centre, for example, they're not from Cathays.
Say 7 years ago there was a lot of issues because there's still a lot of local people mixed into the community. Right. And there was a lot of talk at the time where students were messy and untidy and noisy. A lot of it came around from rubbish.
More tenuous issue of living in a community where up to 70% of the houses change hands every year. You can't have that community life in the same way. And that's not the fault of the students. A lot of them come in and, you hear stories from residents about, students helping out with different issues. But if you constantly have that turnaround in the population, you can't have the same community life. It's not possible.
It is clear that the local community has changed as a result of the influx of students and that the sense of a traditional community cannot be maintained. Despite the letting agent's view that community issues have been resolved, this seems to be only because many of the local residents have moved out of the area, leaving a student population that changes annually. The student focus group identified that although they did not feel part of the wider community, they felt that there is a strong sense of community amongst the student population. Cathays is comprised of predominantly Victorian terraced housing, and due to a lack of HMO licensing restrictions, the majority of houses have now been converted to houses of multiple occupancy. This is an attractive option for landlords as they can maximise rental revenue from the demand in this popular student area. We asked our interviewees for their opinion on the impact of studentification on local housing.
I suppose the main group of students these days, and most definitely biggest care for students, because I'd say the housing in Cathays is alright compared to some of the areas in Cardiff.
Well, the quality of housing in student houses now is really high. Say 10 years ago it was dreadful. There was a massive shortage of houses and there was a desperate scrap for a house every year between everybody. Where now there's, because of the credit boom and stuff, there's a huge amount of houses, a lot of them are really well refurbished. So in fact now there's actually an oversupply of student properties. 50% of our houses are student houses in the Cathays branch.
I think some landlords, it's the equivalent of buying a banger and running it into the ground. They don't put any effort into upkeep. They don't put any effort into making sure that, there's waste provision or that, or even basic things to keep the tenants safe. I think there's a very wide range of housing, but I do think that family housing is squeezed out.
It is interesting that there were contrasting views between the letting agent and the local councillor. The letting agent may be slightly biased in his opinion that the housing quality for students is very good. The local councillor, however, thought any blame for poor quality housing lay with the landlords due to poor maintenance and upkeep of the properties. However, from the student focus group, it seemed that they were very happy with the housing quality, claiming there was plenty of choice and houses in Cathays were good value for money for students. Retail provision is spread throughout Cathays with a concentration of retail in a limited number of local centres. There are a number of small supermarkets located within these, including a Co-op on Crewis Road, Sainsbury's Local on Woodville Road and a Tesco Express on Salisbury Road. A larger Lidl supermarket is located just off Cathays Terrace. The value for money and wide range of choice here makes this a popular choice for students. The majority of retailers within Cathays are independent and located along Cardiff Road. We asked our interviewees for their opinion on the impact on studentification on local retail provision.
I feel that a few of the shops around the area have kind of disappeared. It's like you've got like a lot of letting agencies popping up rather than local businesses. I think Cardiff Road is still quite. There's still quite a lot of local shops that are used by more local people.
I think it's improved a lot over the last few years. Say 10 years ago there was no national provision here of supermarkets, pizza places or anything. But it seems that over the last, say, 5 years, a lot of major players have moved in and put in quite good provision.
The shops have done quite well out of the student population generally. What I would say has been hit is the local greengrocers. There used to be 7 on Truby's Road and they've all gone, and every time somebody tries to open one back up they crash again. And there's obviously a problem with because of so much of the population in Cathays vanishes during the summer. It can be quite hard for some of the businesses then to keep the cash flow over the summer period.
The student population supports a large number of independent retailers. However, as highlighted by the councillor and the local resident, some of these retailers have now closed due to the increase in competition and changing demographics of the area. Similarly, the pubs, bars and restaurants would have been affected by studentification. We asked our interviewees for their opinions on the impacts.
I'd say a lot of the pubs and stuff like that are more student orientated these days. I mean, that's not too much of an issue for myself because I'm that age, but my parents and people like that, they would normally go, if they want to go out, they might go like Canton Way.
It's quite a mix of pubs. A lot of them have been studentified, but there's still some traditional ones. There's the Brains Cruise pub, which I refurbished recently, and that's sort of fairly suitable for everybody, isn't it?
I think there's very few of the pubs that would feel unwelcoming or threatening in any way. Some of those businesses can't always keep going if they're just serving local people. So
it is clear students support a wide variety of pubs, bars and restaurants. The target market for these businesses are the students, and our student focus group identified that they are regularly attracted to them due to the food and drink deals offered. Joel Beswick determined that whilst they do not feel threatened or intimidated, non-students and older residents prefer to travel for these services to places such as Canton, where there is more of a sense of a traditional community. There is some debate on the future for Cathays, and we asked our interviewees for their opinions on this.
Cathays as an area, it will. I think it's about 95% students now, something like that, and it'll slowly increase. And I think it'll spread out further from Cathays to places like Heath.
Well, I think we're at the peak of the student population now. I think what's going to happen is that we're actually going to get a sort of a slight de-intensification.
I mean, there is some debate about how far the numbers will actually increase at the university. I mean, there's been a suggestion that numbers might fall, but having said that, you've got so many different colleges in Cardiff, it's really difficult to imagine that there would be a significant reduction in the number of students.
It is unclear what will happen in the future, as there is currently an oversupply of student housing and there is uncertainty surrounding university numbers and places. The letting agent identified that some of this housing will have to return to cater for other groups, such as families. However, the councillor was sceptical as to how non-student groups will be persuaded to move back to the area. We interviewed different stakeholders within the community in order to achieve results representative of the whole community. This process is known as data triangulation. The research undertaken in this project has been ethical, as we have been overt in our methods and have asked permission to film and use all interviews, complying with Cardiff University's ethical research policy. We carried out a series of semi-structured interviews with a range of interviewees. This increased the credibility of research findings, allowing us to gain different perspectives on key issues. We interviewed 2 focus groups, which comprised of students living in Cathays. The groups were homogeneous in terms of age and comprised of friendship groups, creating a relaxed atmosphere and improving the quality of data collected. With both our interviews and the focus groups, we asked neutral, non-leading questions to reduce bias in results. However, some bias is unavoidable, as the interviewers can affect the answers of the interviewee. The presence of the video camera created a more pressurised environment, which reduced the quality of results.